Dear friend, let's discover more of who we are together. Love, Haley and Amanda.
Welcome back. Hey, dear friends. We're so glad that you tuned in to listen to us on your Monday morning or whenever.
Whenever you're listening to this,
I
always
assume, yeah.
the day that we put it out. But it's when we look at our statistics, it's always like
It's all over the map.
it's all over the map. Like we have listens every day, and like people going back way in the archives. Because if you think about it, like podcasts you love, if you just find them, I always start from the beginning.
That's true.
Like if I listen to an episode like it, I like go from the beginning because I want to get all of them.
All of them?
Yeah.
Our friend last night was telling us that she went through and just read all the titles and whatever titles stood out to her. And then I was like, man, we've really got to be careful with
the
these titles.
I know. Well, let's start with our pledge.
Okay. Do you remember it?
Yeah, I do. I don't
Hand
remember the
over your
real
heart.
Pledge of Allegiance, but I remember this one. Okay?
Let's say the real one.
No.
I'm kidding.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United Mates in America, and rarely in public is where we stand, one friendship, under God, indivisible, live purdy, and just us for all. And today, it is just us for all. Do you know I like that we say United Mates in America? Because mates is a term that you'd probably use in Australia.
And then we say in America.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're funny.
Yeah, I think we're funny. Well, and all the callers call in and tell
they're
us
just like, you're funny,
hilarious.
You're funny. Next, you're funny.
Yeah, it's like, can you guys call in about anything else? The phone rings off the hook about how funny we are.
I think that we should put out a poll of what live pretty means to everyone.
I
Because
think they don't. It doesn't mean anything to anyone.
You don't know that.
Have you heard? Has anyone said anything
No,
to you
because I
about?
haven't asked anyone. Only you. We have our own view of what it means.
I hear people say the pledge is so funny. And there's no specificity around the cool puns in the pledge.
There's so many puns in this pledge.
I think it gets lost. Because it's such tight puns.
Next episode, we could do a breakdown.
Yeah, it's
of
just
the pledge.
the anatomy of our pledge.
Why we're funny.
Yes. Well, today's episode is all about routines, the importance of routines, and
trying new things to kind of keep you young, keep you fresh, keep you sparked.
I will say that in my life, up until the pandemic, I was not a very good routine person. You have always been a person who is good at routines. For instance, this is a small ritual, but every morning you wake up. Every morning, I was roommates with her for 7 years. I know. Every morning she wakes up and she will make coffee and have 2 eggs every morning. That you can bet your bank on it. She is going to have coffee and 2 eggs every morning. I am a fly by the seat of my pants person.
But you do that so consistently.
That's my routine.
Yeah.
But I will say in COVID times, when quarantine started and we were stuck at home, especially at the beginning when you were actually stuck at home, I had to get into certain routines
to get you through.
Well, yeah, and to also, routines bring security.
They do.
They bring that consistency, helps with any low level anxiety, things like that. For me, and we've talked about this so many times, but at the beginning of quarantine when we were locked in, I went on 2 walks every day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. I ate lunch at a certain time every day. We went on a run at a certain time every day. There were things that I looked forward. I had to make myself do to look forward to, and they became these routines that really helped my mental state and just everything through that time period.
Routine and ritual it sets an expectation that makes you feel safe and secure. It's why they say kids really do so well in routine because they don't want a lot of surprise because it makes them feel off balance, makes you feel less safe.
Yeah.
So We even had that episode during a quarantine where we were establishing a morning and an evening ritual to kind of
Yeah.
get our day, setting the tone for your day, setting the tone for going to sleep, to rest, to that special dream place we go to at night. And I think there's something really special about aligning your routines to your values to make sure that you have something in place to honor what's important to you.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you don't plan that stuff out, then maybe it falls through the cracks, or you don't end up doing the things that you really care about. And then you don't end up being the person you really want to be.
Yeah, it's true. It's the small things that you're doing every day, like we've said, they add up to be the person you are, the way you're living your life, and what's getting you from point A to point B, because your days add up to your years and so on and so forth. So I will say that is a really positive thing for me out of that really shut down time in COVID was that I do think I became a more routine-based person in a good way.
Right.
Like I have things that are almost like meditative for me now.
Of course.
That now that I'm back in the real world, or like back into not routines, but like everyday life, I still have these things that I'm doing that I look forward to.
Right.
Like even down to like my skincare.
Totally.
Before COVID, I was like, if I wash my face, it was a good day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now, like, I did all of that, and now it's a part of my routine. And so it's like those small things that you can even look forward to. That sounds dumb, but like washing your face at night and doing your little ritual of how you take care of yourself.
Well, and I don't think that routine and ritual should be confined to hard times. I think it should be something all the time.
I'm saying I learned it in hard time.
But I'm saying when you do go through something really hard that throws your world out of like control, coming back to those little tiny step-by-step things that matter, those little things that are repeated, that are aligned to your values, are what gets you through.
Right.
And I think it's just like that balance, when the world throws a curveball at you and it's out of control, you have this thing that you've set in place.
It like centers you.
Yes.
Well, and I heard someone describe meditation as it's like building this small house inside of you slowly. So it's a place you can
I love that.
always, once you do the work to meditate and build that house, it's a place you can always go to feel that safe and secure.
Grounded.
Yeah. And
our breath. I mean, it's
all connected. And I feel like routine is part of that. I feel like it gives you that safe space even when everything feels out of control. But what we're going to juxtapose this to also trying new things, because there is a point where routine can shut you down.
can plateau you.
What do you think the difference is? Because I think small routine, like what we're talking about, is really important. But what are some routine things you think that are like not good for us?
I mean, I think that you just can't, it's very unrealistic, and it's not human to have your entire world every minute of the day completely planned out and controlled, because that is a lie that we are in 100% control of our lives.
Yeah, and I think we learned that too during
Correct.
the COVID times.
And so I think it's really healthy to make that out of control, spontaneous surprise part of our lives, to foster it so that that part of ourself is just as alive as the grounded, ritualistic side of us. So I think there's a danger when you start to feel like nothing new is coming in, no new people, and then you start to feel
close
anxiety.
yourself off to those new relationships.
Or you don't want, like, nothing could change. Oh no, I can't go to this place because I have to do.
Well, can I tell you an actual example of this for me?
Sure.
Is, so we all know, like, we were shut in for COVID. Even once the world opened up a little bit, like, still travel was restricted for a while, things like that. And I remember this past summer, you were like, let's go for your birthday to Oregon, which is where we used to live. It's where I met my husband. And we hadn't been in several years. We have a ton of friends there. And you were like, let's go for your birthday. And I was so excited. But it would be the first trip first time we got on a plane or anything since March 2020, and it was July 2021. So over a year of no travel. And I remember the night before, and it's embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing.
But the
I
night
think
before,
it's
I'm crying to my husband, Michael. I'm crying to him like,
Maris.
Maris. We call him Maris. I was like, I'm feeling anxious about flying tomorrow. I don't want to leave you because we had been
Yep.
nonstop together for the past year and a half, like sleeping next to each other every night. It's like you get used to when you do the same things all the time.
It's a
Doing
comfort.
something different feels scary.
It is. Yeah.
And I was like, I would identify how I was feeling was very fear-based about even going on a fun trip with my best friend who feels like home and family to me around a place I love and had been to with friends I'd known forever. Like even that, I was feeling afraid, and it's because it was so out of my routine.
Right. And I think that's that, we went into routine and ritual to keep us safe because we felt so out of control and unsafe during that time. But then it's like you can lean too far into it without even realizing.
Yeah.
Which is why I think having good dear friends to make sure you're keeping that other part, both parts alive.
Yeah.
So I think people can go the other way too, where they're just flying by the seat of their pants. They're always trying something new. They have nothing consistent, no ritual, totally ungrounded, anxious.
Yeah.
And so I think during that time, even us, like I was talking to like my therapist the other day, and she was like, it's so important, because I was telling her I'm going on a big trip in April, and that I was telling her I feel like a part of myself not taking these big risks or even doing like different stuff, which I don't feel that way as much anymore. But I felt like a part of myself was kind of dying.
Yeah. Because you hadn't had the opportunity, and now
Right.
that you were getting it, you were a little bit afraid to do it, like how I felt.
Right. And it's similar to that feeling, which last week we were talking about being at that jam session here, being around that many people for the first time, being in a creative environment, feeling that spark. And it was like, oh, this is a part of me
that I love and miss and want and need to pursue.
And it only comes out when you allow that bit of spontaneity, even just small things. Like we were saying the other day, like let's say you go for a run, it's your ritual, or a walk, it's your ritual. Go on a different trail.
Yeah, like noticing different things on a different route. It's nice to bring in something new, even if it's in a small way.
Yeah, because I think there's something about our minds, our psyche, and then our soul that when something new is around, you even talking last week about like feeling awe, you can't feel
awestruck. Yeah.
If it's the same thing you're doing all the time.
Yeah.
And it's so comforting to be around the same people. But then that part of yourself when you meet a new person, that sparks, you never feel that.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because it's the anxiety around, like we're all trying to navigate this, us coming back into different parts of ourselves that were forcibly turned off. And the anxiety around that and the worry and fear is real. But then when you push past it, you find again how much you really loved it. Like once we went on that trip, it was the best trip. But it's pushing past those fears because you decide like, that's not the kind of person I want to be. I don't want to not do things based off of fear. Right. Like you're about to go on this big trip, and we were talking about me joining you for the last part of it to celebrate our friendiversary and everything. And initially, it's an international trip, and initially I was like, I can't do that. Like I can't fly by myself internationally. Like I felt that fear, and then I was like, but Amanda, you don't want to be a person who is totally going to disregard things you love because you're afraid of them.
Yeah. And it's no small feat. Like
it's real.
Because I know earlier you were saying like it's embarrassing, but
it's embarrassing because you think I used to do this all the time, and I liked it, and I wasn't crying about it. It's like, why do I
Right.
feel this way? But it's because you have been forced to stay and get used to a different way of living. And yeah, you're like, why am I crying?
It just shows like that you really have to curate your life to be the best version of yourself that you
have
want
to
to
be
be.
so intentional,
Or you'll
because
slip into different things without knowing.
yeah, and I think us collectively, we have got to be aware that this situation we've been in for now over 2 years, has it been or it's about to be 2 years?
I think it's right now, February,
Yeah,
because it was
2
like
years.
Valentine's. I
So us
remember.
collectively, we have been in this situation for 2 years, and we all have to be intentional about what it's done to us.
Yeah. Be honest about it.
Yeah, honest about how, if it's caused any kind of fear or restraint in areas that you really brought you joy. Like, you've got to make sure, we have to all make sure, because I mean, we're doing this right now, that those things aren't stopping us from trying new things, because trying new things makes you young and vibrant. Like, coming to that jam session, like, it electrified us here at Fernware, and it was all these musicians playing off of each other, and it's like, it was kind of scary to choose to go and be in a room full of people with this new variant out at the time.
Right.
Like, it was kind of scary, but like, we also, those are things that make us feel alive. So we just had to figure out how to do it safely. So we wore masks.
And it's making me, well, and we wanted to share this poem from David Whyte, our favorite poet, called My Courageous Life, because, you know, there is a version of yourself that you see out in the future that is brave and
the
courageous.
version of you that you long to be.
And if you are, which is very interesting, if you're longing and can even have a vision of yourself that way, that means that is a part of you. It is you.
It's a desire.
And then you just have to take steps. We have to take steps to be that person that we see and envision ourselves to be.
The poem is kind of long, but can I read the whole thing?
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were gonna.
I wasn't gonna read the whole thing, but I really love the poem.
And so the part we were gonna highlight is towards the end, and we'll talk about it. But I would love for you to read the whole thing.
Okay, and again, this is by David Whyte, Whyte is how you spell his last name, and the poem is called My Courageous Life, and it's in a book,
his brand new book
that we our friend Bonnie, who's been on the podcast, she got us both for Christmas, and we're loving it. What's the name of the book again?
Still Possible.
Still Possible. Oh, perfect.
Also, sorry, just before you read, I was going to say that another reason why this topic came up is because we were listening to these David Whyte sessions, and there was an older woman, older in quotes, I think she was in her 60s, and she was saying, why is it so hard as I'm aging to do these new fresh things, to meet new people, to go for long trips, all this stuff, move to a new place. And he kind of like debunked that whole thing that it's just society that makes us feel that way, and ourselves, you know, we settle into these things, but we have the power to keep being young, but we have to do that. We have to take steps to be our
most
courageous versions of ourselves.
Yeah. So the poem's called My Courageous Life, and it says, my courageous life has gone ahead and is looking back, calling me on. My courageous life has seen everything I have been and everything I have not, and has forgiven me day after day. My courageous life still wants my company, wants me to understand my life as a witness, and thus bequeath me the way ahead. My courageous life has the patience to keep teaching me how to invent my own disappearance and how, once gone, to reappear again. My courageous life wants to stop being ahead of me so that I can lie down and rest deep inside the body it has been calling on. My courageous life wants to be my foundation, showing me day after day, even against my will, how to undo myself, how to surpass myself, how to laugh as I go in the face of danger, how to invite the right kind of perilous love, how to find a way to die of generosity. And like the part we were going to focus on towards the end, it's about how that courageous version of ourselves, it's trying to teach us against our will sometimes about how to surpass that fear, like to laugh in the face of danger, to invite the right kind of perilous
the
love.
right kind of peril.
Yeah, there's a right kind of peril.
Yeah, and it's important. We need to put ourselves in situations that feel a little scary, so that we have a chance to rise up to that, to surpass ourselves, to undo. Because when you think about becoming your best self, you think about forming this thing. Now I have control over this thing that I've become. I am making myself. But there's something really to allowing yourself to be undone and feel a little scared and feel a little bit like you're out of control. The right kind, obviously.
Right. And I think it's really hard to choose that.
It is.
And it's hard to choose that in relationships, especially like we've talked about this, you're single, like about putting yourself out there with people. It's just, you have to be open to be like, this is uncomfortable, scary, unknown, but like I got to put myself out there. And for me and my marriage, it's like if I want to keep growing with this person and changing together with him, then I have to open up vulnerable parts of myself continuously, even when I don't want to.
Well, and it's like vulnerability. David Whyte says, like vulnerability is it comes from the word that means wound, which means it's actually just where you're open to the world, whether you want to be or not. And when you can be seen, you can be touched, and when you can be touched, you can be hurt. So will be. Yeah, because if you choose to care about something, then
it will hurt you.
Yeah.
Because there's just you care too much.
Yeah,
which is a good thing.
It is.
But it's also, you can't say that you'll be protected from the bad parts of it.
Right. It's both. It has to be both. Just like we're talking about today, being in a routine, ritual, grounded, centered with your breath, you also have to have that other side of you, which just will happen even if you're the most controlled person on planet Earth. Something will come and surprise you and sweep you off your feet. And we can try to be ready for it by inviting that right kind of peril on a daily basis, or we can just, completely collapse because we're not ready, we're blindsided.
Well, and this had me thinking about James Clear, his book Atomic Habits. Something that he said that it's kind of been it's totally changed the way my inner dialogue has been. I just recently, since I've heard him talking about this, that whenever he's setting goals or habits or things that he wants to stick to, the research that he's discovered and everything, if you focus too much on the goal, it's easy to set a goal. Like, I want to lose 30 pounds or whatever. Like, it's
Me too.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying like, that's a good example. Like, I want to lose 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And then you're focusing on that and like counting how many pounds you're losing until you get there. Or you could say, I want to be a healthy person. And so then you say, would a healthy person miss a workout?
Doesn't he say like making identity based?
Yes, an identity based goal.
Yeah.
So you say, I want to be like a healthy person, or
courageous.
A loyal person, or a courageous person. And so like this makes me feel like when we were talking about this trip we're going to go on, I said to myself like, I want to be a courageous person. And I don't know why that's making me emotional.
It is emotional.
But it's because
it's brave.
Well, it's just like those things that scare you want to shut down and say, well, I'm just not strong enough to do that. But then if you say, no, like what would a courageous person do? What would an adventurous person do? And you have to say like, well, they would do the hard thing. Like they would do the thing that's a little bit scary to get the reward of like doing the fun, great trip with my best friend. Like the scary part about leaving my home and my husband and my dog and getting on a plane by yourself and going across the ocean.
Yeah.
And, like all of that, that's scary. It's like, yeah, you have to make, a courageous person would make sacrifices to get the reward. And I think just changing that inner dialogue of asking that question, because even in small habits like that, I've been trying to run every day. I told myself at least 5 days a week, and every time I don't want to do it, I say like, but what would a healthy person do? Would they not do the run today, or would they do? And like, of course we know the answer. It's not something catastrophically new. It's just like that way of talking to myself instead of being like, oh, you're so lazy.
Well,
like,
yeah, it feels like a step up instead of a step down. Like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm so lazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm stooped down. I guess I'll make myself do it, rather than this is who I know I can be.
Yeah.
And I'm going to step towards that.
Right. And so I think we have to be very aware and self-aware of areas where we're letting ourselves fall into routine in a bad way, and make ourselves be open to new and good perilous things. But then we have to appreciate and see the importance of where routine is, that can be that safe and good place for us.
Yes.
And that's why I really like this conversation, because it is like there are really good things about routine that we need. And there are really good things about the good kind of peril that we're talking about, and trying something, being a little bit of a risk taker in a good way.
And that the why behind our whole podcast is that young Pueblo quote about, an honest and deep conversation with a good friend is sometimes exactly the nourishment you need to be this courageous version of yourself.
And go back out into the world and make those conscious decisions.
And like, we're here to like, not like, the point of friendship is not to continue to improve each other and call out all the things you need to do, but to watch each other, and witness each other, and speak to the better part of your partners in life, like, hey, come try this new thing with me. If you see that one of your friends is kind of sinking into something, or if you feel like you're really sinking into something and you're too afraid to do it on your own, maybe just ask a good friend, like, hey, let's go try dinner at this new spot together, let's help each other to be these courageous versions that I know we can be.
Yeah, and we should be.
Yeah.
That was good. Well, and I think it's important.
I do too.
So thank you for listening this week. And as you can see, we're back at our Fernware home. And it's recorded here at Fernware in Oak Cliff, Dallas, Texas. And the podcast is produced and edited by the Fernware staff. We have Will here, who's running sound and cameras, and we just love being here. We hope you guys are enjoying the new setup.
But the music that you hear at the beginning and end of each episode is actually by our band, Sister.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to more of our band's music, you can find us on Spotify or anywhere you can stream music. And a good place to find all of that information is at sistertheband.com.
And don't forget to watch our podcast if you want to see our faces in this badass video editing on YouTube at Dear Friend, Podcast.
Y'all have a great week. We'll see you next week.